Literacy Leadership Coaches. This is our first podcast. We're so excited to have you all here today. I'm Kim Bradley.
I'm Erica Glenn.
And Erica and I both have over 25 years of experience in education. And during this podcast, we will share our knowledge and expertise. And we will hopefully share anecdotes and strategies, resources that you can take back and use in your school. So today's topic is outside pressures, inside pressures, the pressures that exist for school leaders in education. And so we want to start with a hot topic.
Okay.
And that hot topic is the science of reading. So we realize that the science of reading has become somewhat of a buzzword, a phrase, but it's also the place of very much so pressure for a lot of schools, a lot of teachers, a lot of administrators, right? Mm-hmm. What has been your experience, because you're still in the school setting around it?
Well, we're still learning what is the science of reading. I know the state is making some changes and around the curriculum and what is being taught and how reading is being taught in school. So at our building, what we're trying to do is find our lane, mm-hmm. because I'm a principal at a preschool, and we want to know what is our lane and then to get really good at being in our lane.
Mm-hmm. I could see that the pressures on teachers pre-K and up, especially maybe to third grade and even beyond, and administrators and school districts, especially around having to change possibly their entire curriculum to make certain that they are aligned with the science of reading, especially here in Indiana, like you mentioned, where legislation has been enacted, where teachers have to have been trained, and it's a part of their licensing, mm-hmm. to be science of reading, able to teach it well, but mm-hmm. able to teach it well. And so we are realizing that it puts a lot of pressure on folks. You know, mm-hmm. you have to make certain that your teachers are properly trained and that they have the support, because a lot of folks are moving from guided reading or whole language, which is a little old, but even whole language, I would assume, mm-hmm. and that this infusion of the science of reading and brain research around how people learn to read is a little bit different, I think.
Right. I know sometimes, not so much at our school, but sometimes the way that education is kind of cyclical.
Oh, that's true.
And then people are resistant because I was doing this and now throw all that away and now we're going to do this. So I think it's important to know what it is. And then you might not have to throw everything out. There might be some things that were working for you. You can still keep those things.
I agree that in the education sphere, mm-hmm. Things do come back. A lot of things are cyclical. And I think it's because people want to do what's best for students, right? So it's like, if this thing isn't working, let's try this. And it can feel like that. But I think that when you look at the research around how brains learn to read, mm-hmm. That is not the same way that we learn to speak and we learn to work with language. And so I think there's some credence to that those foundational skills that support good reading.
Right.
And so with that being said, I think it's important that teachers and principals really take a look at it, understand that it is what's best for students. Mm-hmm. And the key to doing it well, I think, is properly training folks, you know, taking a look at their data, things like that.
Yes, that's true.
All right.
So
go ahead.
We were along the lines of the hot topic. We were talking about just pressures. So what are some other pressures that you can think of that come to mind, like when you were principal or like district leader?
Yeah, I think that when I think about the pressures of being a school leader, one of them, for me anyway, was wanting to make certain that the school ran properly, that the students were learning, that it was a place of support for our students and their families. Mm-hmm. And the way that I dealt with that, though, wasn't so great. It was to not really delegate tasks. Mm-hmm. So I had it in my mind that in order for those things to happen, I needed to have my hand in everything. I needed to do all the things. And I had a good team, but it was just that pressure manifested itself in that way.
Okay.
And so it wasn't until I had some time with my mentor that I realized I was kind of burning the candle from both ends. And it was causing some undue stress. And so some of the things that I did to deal with that was to really be clear about the expectations, really be clear about the vision of the school, and share that so that people knew kind of where we were going and why. And then also just build that trust with your team. I had to build the trust there so that everybody knew their role and we utilized what was best and what gifts everybody had, because you're not the only one. You're never going to move as far by yourself as you are, with the team of folks. And so that was one of the pressures that I had, both from the outside, but also from the inside, pressure for testing and all of those kinds of things too. But it was a lot of internal pressure as well.
Okay. I think for me, my internal pressure when I first became principal, I had a pre-K through 6th building, and I wouldn't want to put the school in a bad light. Like any decision that I made, I didn't want it to be bad for the school. So that would be my internal pressure. I would worry so much so that I would have insomnia. I would be up at night, like bouts of not sleeping. And the concern was that I'm not going to make the right decision. There's this one right decision I have to figure it out. So I have all these options, and it sometimes might look like you're indecisive, but it's really not that you're indecisive. It's that you're trying to pick the right one. So I learned after being a principal for a while is there's more than one way to solve a problem, and there could be multiple options that you could choose, and they can still all be good. So what you need to do is look at all the information that you have, and then be solid in this is what I'm going to do. I can stand by this. Mm-hmm. And if you can stand by it, then just go ahead and do it and stick with it.
I agree.
It'll be fine.
Absolutely. And the decision that you choose, for me, in that same scenario, would be always based on my bottom line. You know what I mean? My why. Whatever that why is, that's kind of my beacon to make those decisions, and then just stand on it like you said.
What's going to be best for the kids.
Absolutely. What's best for the students. Yeah.
Another thing you said was, you were talking about around this time of year is testing. Oh. And I know when I was a new principal again with that pre-K through 6 model, around this time there would be this big push to get ready for the test.
Stay testing.
Yes,
don't we?
Yes. And when I remember, I had a 3rd grade class that pressure is not just on the principal, the teacher as well, but even the kids were stressed out. My first year, I was rubbing people's backs while they're trying to take their test. And I'm like, okay, it's going to be okay. We having, deep breathing sessions before we take the test. And that's really, it shouldn't be that way. Right. So I guess what I learned in that situation, I don't have that configuration anymore, but you have to start when they're little. Start with the pre-K and then build it up to kindergarten. Make sure that they're learning what they need to learn as they go along, instead of trying to go back and fix the holes, as we call them.
Yes.
The holes can be really deep if you're not paying attention to them.
Yes, that tier 1 instruction has to be strong, right? Because you cannot tier 2 your way out of those tier 1 holes.
Right.
It just does not exist. So you have to really make certain that the children have the strong foundation.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what I learned from the testing, is to not push the tutoring and all of that, stress everybody out, but trying to make it a smooth transition as you go along. And also keep the parents in the loop. So,
yeah. And I think the tutoring piece is important, but it's to use it in a particular way so that it's not just in January to until the testing, because I don't know that it is not a big enough Band-Aid to fix whatever may be the issues and foundational knowledge.
Now
so
you'd be freaking out because somebody didn't come to teach. Where are you? I need you to come.
Right.
It's too late.
Absolutely, it is too late. I think another thing is during the testing season too, like that week or the month or whatever, however long the state testing is, it's important to kind of take the pressure down in the building a little bit. And I think that's on the school leader and maybe the teachers as well. Like to have that week or 2 weeks be kind of fun for the kids and the teachers so that it's not just so laborious, so much pressure on everybody, because it kind of is going to be whatever it is going to be. You know, at that point, there's not a whole lot you can do. Like you said, the foundation needed to have been set pre-K on through. So yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah.
Any other pressures that you can think of that affect school leaders?
Probably on a personal level, like your family, you know, like that balance, trying to find the balance between, that's another thing that I would, when I first started, probably out of balance with just trying to make sure you get everything done, make sure everything's done correctly, and not, you know, work until 9 o'clock at night, or even work until 5 and come home and eat dinner, and then get back on the computer. And like I say, I was emailing people at night. So that is something to be aware of, to have that balance. And sometimes it's a pressure because you know I want to make sure that everything is done. So much to do,
right? And
that delegating is probably,
that is true, and probably in both spaces. You know, whether you are at home with a spouse or not, you know, being able to share the load at home as well, you know, true. And that you have that support in both places is probably the best way to deal with the pressures of, you know, we're both moms and wives and also school leaders, you know, that could be, you're right, a lot to have to juggle. So it's important to do that self-care too. Like you have to take care of yourself. Like a lot of times ladies are always taking care of everybody else, but you know, you have to have those boundaries so that you can't take care of people if you can't take care of you.
That's true. So I had a friend who would make me eat lunch. Like I wouldn't even eat lunch. I you know, just work through the whole day. And I learned from her. We would take lunch together. She happened to be in the building with me. And after that, I got it now. Like you have to eat lunch. Right. So that time is protected. And you feel better. You know, when you're just, when you're not out of balance, you feel better. And you actually can get more done because you're not so tired.
This is true. Or hungry.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So,
angry.
Yes, it is important to take care of yourself, even with just eat. Yeah, absolutely. Do you have anything else to add?
I think that's pretty much off the, you know, the top, those pressing issues that were societal and parental and family.
And,
and
self-inflicted, those self-inflicted pressures,
definitely.
Of course, right?
Yeah. So I think that's the biggest, probably the biggest one is your own
the
thoughts.
pressure that you put on yourself. I could see that. Yeah. So this has been Literacy Leadership Coaches.
Yes.
Our topic has been around the pressures that we experience as school leaders. And we want to welcome you to share in the comments some ways that you deal with the pressures of being a school leader. Share with us your thoughts around the science of reading and the pressures, or maybe some strategies that you all have adapted in order to support your teachers as we go through this transition, you know, together. So we will see you again in our next one, and thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.